I've gone ahead and saved the progress from the previous exercises one-on-one love diagram.ai, just in case you want to compare your results to mine. We're now going to move on to the Celtic knot project. So I'll switch over to celticknot.ai, and I want you to appreciate how remarkable this very simple illustration is. First of all, you know that in the PostScript printing language and in Illustrator, one object has to be either in front of or in back of another object. It can't be woven into an object. So what we've got here is this orange circular element that is weaving in front of and in back of this green element. Meanwhile, the green element is weaving in front of and in back of itself. That is just impossible inside of Illustrator, and yet you can simulate that effect using Live Paint. And even better, I'll press the A key in order to switch to the wide arrow tool, and check this out. If I start grabbing segments and moving them around, then everything updates on the fly. And I can even grab the interior of the circle if I want to, so I can modify partial elements and still get dynamic results here. Now, what you will notice, because I filled these objects with gradients, and you'll see how that works in a future exercise, but because of the gradients, I have some ghosting left over in the wake of my changes, and that's something I could rectify if I want to. I actually think it looks pretty cool in this case, but I could fix those gradients in short order using the gradient tool. And again, I'll show you how that works. But I just want you to have a sense of how amazingly flexible this approach is. All right, so I'm going to press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac a few times to restore my original objects. And what we're going to do in this exercise is set up the base path outline. Essentially, we're going to set up this path outline right here, this arc that runs over the course of this area that I'm tracing right now, because that's the base path in this green element here. And so the green element is really a combination of three of those things working together as I'm tracing. And so they're parts of circles, and then we have this other circle that's woven into them. So let's go ahead and start work on those base objects. I have a file all ready for you. Very simple file too. You could have drawn it yourself, but I just want you and I to get exactly the same results. It's called circleandtarget.ai. And you should see this circle with a black stroke, no fill, and this little target guide. If you can't see the guide, press Control semicolon or Command semicolon on the Mac in order to bring it up. And the guide is just a little circle with a couple of lines drawn through it. But it identifies the center of our transformations. So go ahead and press the V key if you're working along with me to switch to the black arrow tool. And if you don't have this progress file, you can pretty much build this, I think, on your own and follow along with me. But this just gives the premium members a place to start. And I'll go ahead and click on this path outline in order to select it. Then I'm going to switch over to my rotate tool. And I can get that by pressing the R key, of course. And I'll Alt-click or Option-click on that target in order to bring up the rotate dialog box. Now, I need three circles that are woven together in order to create that green object. And so a full circular rotation is 360 degrees. So we take 360 and we divide it by 3 in order to get 120. And so go ahead and enter 120 for your angle, click the copy button, and then do it again by pressing Control-D or Command-D on the Mac. And now we have 3 circles. We want 4 because we also want that central orange circle. So go ahead and grab your black arrow tool once again and drag from the center point of this most recent circle, drag it until it aligns. It should snap into alignment with that target, then press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac in order to create a clone. Now go to the Layers panel and twirl open the Primitives layer, the one and only layer inside the panel, and turn off the top object, this most recent circle you just created, because we'll come back to it. We just want to have that circle in place for now. So go ahead and turn it off. Now, what I found over the course of working through this project, that the most efficient approach was to go ahead and whittle things down to an intersection of 2 of these circles. So what I need to do is I need to cut out this part right there, right? We need to get rid of this section of circle, this section up here, and this section down there. And you could do that by cutting using the scissors tool. You could cut right there at the intersections. Or, there's a bunch of different approaches you could take. You could even try to make it work with Live Paint. You could turn this into a Live Paint object and get rid of these outer strokes. But if you do that, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the Live Paint technique later on down the road. We need to start with the static path outline in order to get that Live Paint weaving effect. So it doesn't pay to be too clever up front in this case. Anyway, here's the cleverness. I just need this little piece right there. That's what I figured out over time. So what I'm about to show you may not seem like the best approach. It's not the most intuitive approach necessarily, but it was the best approach that I came up with. So I'll go ahead and click on this circle right there, in order to select it, the most recent circle of the three, and I'm going to press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of it, which may seem pretty radical just to throw it away like that, but works out beautifully. I'm now going to marquee the last two circles, the remaining ones, to select them both, and I'll bring up the Pathfinder panel, and then I'll click on this guy right there, intersect, in order to find the intersection of those two paths. That's all we need, is this bit right there. In fact, that's still too much. We don't need all of that. Now I'll hide the Pathfinder panel. I'm going to switch to the wide arrow tool by pressing the A key, and I'm going to marquee these 2 points. We want to keep the points that I'm not marqueing. So we're just marqueing the 2 inner points here, the 2 points on the left-hand side, in order to select them, and then press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac, and all you have left is that little bit. The entire knot, by the way, is based on that little bit. This is this section right there. We just happen to be zoomed out from it, so we're zoomed in more in this illustration. You can see the zoom ratio is set to 200%. Inside the other one, it's set to 100%. And that's because we needed to take in all of those circles originally. Anyway, this is the section that we still have, and the entire Celtic knot is based on that. All right, so I'll switch back to my illustration in progress. Might as well zoom in on it so that we have the same zoom ratio. Go ahead and switch from the rotate tool to the reflect tool now, which you can get by pressing the O key. Alt-click or Option-click on this left-hand point. Set the reflect axis to vertical, turn on preview so you can see what you're doing. You should get this effect right here, a horizontal flip. And then click copy in order to create a clone. All right, now we need to fuse these 2 path outlines together. And I'm going to do that by grabbing my direct selection tool, marqueing these 2 coincident anchor points right there. And by coincident, I mean one's directly on top of the other. And then what you typically do is just join them together, right? You might go to the object menu, choose the path command, and then choose join, or press Control-J, Command-J on the Mac. And now in Illustrator CS5, you don't get a dialog box anymore. It just does its thing. The problem is that it goes ahead and fuses those 2 points into a corner point, as you can see right there. I need it to be a smooth point, so I'll undo that modification by pressing Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac. You should just be able to go up here to the control panel and click on this icon right there that converts the point to a smooth point. Only, in my case, it's not working. So that's a bust. Anyway, I'll press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac a couple of times in order to restore my 2 independent path outlines. And I can see that they're independent here inside the Layers panel. I've got an arc on the left-hand side and another one on the right-hand side. I'm going to marquee these 2 points with the wide arrow tool once again. They look like one, but they're 2 points directly on top of each other. Now, to get that old school behavior, those of you who are familiar with previous versions of Illustrator know that when you join 2 coincident endpoints in the old days, CS4 and all the way back to version 1.0, you got a dialog box that would ask you if you want to join the 2 points into a corner point or a smooth point. You can still get that dialog box by mashing your fist down and pressing the J key. It's Control-Shift-Alt-J or Command-Shift-Option-J on the Mac. Brings up the join dialog box. Now you can say that you want a smooth point. Click OK, and now it's done properly. These 2 control handles are locked into alignment with each other, which is what I want. All right, I'll press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac to undo that particular modification. We now have our base path. We need to rotate it around a couple of more times. We've now described this arch right here. We need to create this one and this one as well, and then we need to fuse them together, and we'll do all of that and more in the next exercise.